That's great. And then at that point, did you think about? You said a few minutes back that it was the first month you were profitable, and did you consider then raising capital, or what were some of the biggest concerns you've had once you found that, like, all right, there are retailers out there that are sophisticated enough to actually buy my CGI technology in order to move merchandise in a more efficient way, and having a better cost of capital structure for them. So now that I know this, I'm just gonna go and sell a bunch of projects and find clients that are interested in that. And then as you were growing, what were aside from the hiring part, what were some of the things that were in your mind? And did you consider, hey, I'm gonna now go after institutional investors. I need to raise venture capital, or I'm just gonna bootstrap this. Where were you as a founder at that point in time?
That's something I would have done different. Like, because trying to get funding early on didn't work, we kind of just forgot that there was even ever an option from that moment on. And we became very profitable when we switched business models, right? We were just figuring, man, let's just do it with our own cash, let's bootstrap it, whatever. I would have done that differently now. I think at that moment in time, we were so unique and had so many opportunities at the table that we could have made this a lot bigger than it became. Like, really accelerate it and make it establish ourselves in the US before any competition would actually see what was going on. Like, we were, for a long time, we were the only guys that did it, the only ones. Like, there was no one else doing the way we were doing it. And I would have done it differently.
That's great.
I would have said, look, let's take 50 million and let's make this a global thing explode, you know?
Yeah, or even you could apply that to other industries, right? That required, like, specifically real estate. I mean, there's just a lot of interesting potential there. But I love the fact that I forgot the venture capital was an option, and then ultimately it kind of goes with that other maxima of better than raising a dollar of venture is getting a dollar in of revenue, because when you do that, it gives you this ability for, it's something I always tell all the founders I work with. It's basically like, you want to raise money, you need to do it from a position of strength with optionality, because in the end, the best projects, teams, and people and so forth, they'll have choices in life, but it's important that they pick who they think will be the ideal partners for them in their journey. And I think that in a very natural way, you guys just kind of like cross that barrier, and you learn an important lesson also about the size of the output overall, which hopefully you put your work on your next project. But the you got to a point where the company. When was the moment where like the exit started, like coming up or becoming a potential reality, basically? Like, let's go to the moment where, like, hey, you already hired 120 people, you've delivered on the biggest project of the company, and then what? Like, what was happening?
And a comment what was said about now and then before about thinking big. Like, for the good news was that we were very busy, and the bad news was that we were very busy. So what happened was we made what I see today as two huge mistakes that we will never do again. We were so busy that we stopped selling, right? Uh, that's how busy we were. But that's a huge mistake. You just gotta, like, bulk up. Maybe at some moment you gotta hold off a little bit. Like, a company that stops selling is doomed to be out of work in the close future, because then you're done with the thing that was making you very busy, and then our sales cycle was so long that we were facing very huge revenue fluctuation, right? And that's where I would have done different is, right, we found this business model, we made it work, it works, we're doing a bunch of different software solutions to make it better, to make it faster, cheaper, more high quality. How do we keep ourselves in a strategic realm on this and let the operation actually run smoothly, right? And that's where venture capital money would be very welcome at that moment in time, because we could really juice it up and be like, right, this machine is well oiled up. How do we expand on this concept? How do we go to different countries? How do we support different markets? And actually think bigger. As I said, thinking big is hard. It takes, and the bigger you think, the more balls it will take to actually uh, go for it. But with the knowledge I have today, I would not have considered this option for sure, which was never on the table for us at the time.
It's interesting. I also think that it's very easy for us to be trapped in our own realities and then ultimately go, making decisions out of a place of scarcity. And to give you an example, it's the point that you've made when you were just starting out, and and you had your father, doing the software development for the dealership. Like, what's the worst that could happen there if he fails miserably? He's just gonna go back into his own way. Stalking with other founders, in the podcast, and yesterday, we were recording with Rafael from Anycart, and he said, for me, what defines me as a founder is the fact that's like I'm comfortable making a list of everything I am scared of. And always thinking about the worst case scenario. If I fail miserably, what is going to happen? And he said, I always have a roof over my head. I can go back to my parents' house and rebuild my life. Just knowing that, it's and he was certainly not born with money at all. He's a completely self-made guy, and made millions in his first exit, bootstrapping and so forth. So it was interesting. Where it's just like kind of like I love that exercise. Tim Ferriss has a great talk on that. Just like define your fears, because when you do that, it gives you that certainty to go all in and push it all out. And that is an interesting mental and financial leverage that I think investors can bring to the table for startups, which is basically like, hey, here are millions of dollars. We want you to be as committed and take as much risk as possible, right?
That's it. And the challenge changes also when, like, we were learning on the fly with this, right? We were just, it was everything happening really fast when we actually hit it. So we were learning how to manage a bigger group of people. It was not 20 anymore. It was almost 150. And then what? Apparently there's something about culture that we're supposed to know, like corporate culture, and how do we bring culture, and how do we keep people happy. And then a bigger group of people seem to have different problems than a smaller group of people. So there was burnout, and then there was complaints. There's like all the air conditioners is too cold. Like, goddamn person. Like one year ago, the bathroom and the kitchen were pretty much the same room, and that's where we cleaned the dishes. That was months ago, and now the air conditioner is too cold. You know what I mean? Like, it becomes a different company, with more complaints, with more problems, and then we were so used to being the doers that we actually got to do it. Like, it was hard to learn the moment where we actually had to let go and do something different for what was necessary at that moment in time. Like, we were happy to be super busy, but it didn't mean we were busy with the right things at that moment, right? And it was just how we operated, and that's hard to identify. Like, is this the most high value thing I should be doing as the founder of this company? We didn't even think about it. It was just like, man, we got this project. It's huge. We gotta deliver it. Fuck everything else.
That's great. Well, I think you start learning about leverage over time, right? And how important it is to just be mindful of your time. And um, for me, the best book on that specifically is, Matt Mockery's The Great CEO from Within. It's a book that I give to every founder I invest in, and it's a great book, right? It just teaches you the basics of like regular management, because I think he knows, as the great coach that he is, that in the end, all we want to do is just live a happy life and get shit done. And then but not everyone is comfortable with that level of chaos. And as you start hiring people have expectations of how an organization is supposed to function, and the dynamics are very different. Well, as long as that's the importance of culture as well, right? When you're scaling the company, because that is the one thing that prevents you from becoming a crazy organization, a dysfunctional, group of people. If you have the correct mechanisms in place, so people protect the work and the integrity of the mission. And at the same time, I don't think that companies or startups, like, they should never be democracies. They're just well-run dictatorships. So the China model for company building, in my opinion, works far better than the American model. And I am very anti-China in many ways, but I do think that they run a pretty organized country.
They get stuff done real quick.
Exactly. I might not agree with a bunch of things, but